My babies. I'm gonna tell you something I never thought I'd have to say out loud. My own son picked his child's birthday dinner, my grandson's birthday, of all nights to try and bury me while the candles were still warm. He chose a restaurant with white tablecloths and quiet music, the kind of place where people whisper like the walls are listening, the kind of place where folks expect you to keep it classy. He thought that setting would make me behave, thought I'd swallow anything just to avoid a scene. He was wrong. Before I get into it, if you're hearing me right now, wherever you are, drop where you're listening from and what time it is. I mean it. I picture y'all out there, late night kitchen lights, earbuds in, heart heavy, and if you've been here before, you already know. Hit that subscribe. It helps more than you think. Alright, my name is Lorraine Wallace. I'm 76 years old. My knees crack like old floorboards, and I don't move as fast as I used to. But my mind is still sharp. Sharp enough to survive a son who thought I'd gone soft with age. For most of my life, I worked around the human heart, not in a poetic way, in a real, bloody, clinical way. I spent decades in hospitals' bright lights, cold air, beeping machines, learning how to read what people don't say. A tiny hesitation in a voice, a tremor in a hand, a laugh that comes too late. I learned that a body can look fine and still be failing, and that's how I spotted my son's betrayal long before he ever opened his mouth. See, from the outside, my family looked like one of those magazine stories people love: black success, legacy, 3 generations thriving. I was the one with the degrees on the wall and the calluses on my soul from building a life brick by brick. My son, Marcus, was the charming one, smooth talk, big smile, the kind of man who could sell a candle to somebody standing in sunlight, and for years, I let myself believe we were a team. After my husband passed, I kept the house. Not a mansion, just a sturdy place I loved, with a porch that caught the evening breeze and a little backyard where I grew herbs because I like my food to taste like something. I paid that mortgage down with my own hands, my own sacrifice, my own long nights. I kept my son's childhood photos in a shoebox in my closet like a fool keeps prayers. Marcus grew up, got himself a taste for the finer things, and somewhere along the way, he started treating my life like it was an extension of his wallet. It wasn't overnight. It never is. It's slow like rust, like mold, like a leak behind the wall that only shows itself when the whole ceiling falls in. At first it was little stuff. Ma, let me handle your bills. It's easier. Ma, you don't need to be standing in line at the bank. Ma, give me your login. They do everything online now. And I'm old, yes, but I'm not stupid. I knew what I was handing over. I just didn't know what he'd do with it. Because when it's your child, you don't expect them to become your predator. You expect the world to be the wolf, not the boy you raised. But the signs started coming in like bad test results. A late notice on a bill I swore I paid. A call from a pharmacy asking about a balance that didn't make sense. My credit card declining at the grocery store in front of a cashier who looked at me like I was trying to pull something. And Marcus always had a cute little explanation. Ma, that system be trippin'. Ma, relax. It's a mix-up. Ma, you worry too much. He'd say it with that laugh like I was being dramatic, like my whole life was a little comedy skit for him to manage. I started keeping my own notes, quietly, not because I wanted to catch him, because something in me, some old instinct, kept tapping my shoulder like, girl, wake up. I'd jot down dates, times, names of companies. I'd take pictures of letters before they disappeared. I'd screenshot things when I got access. I moved like a woman preparing for surgery, because that's what it felt like I had something inside my life that needed to be removed clean, or it would spread. And the truth is, I was embarrassed. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I'd been strong my whole life. I'd been the one people leaned on. Folks came to me when their world fell apart. And here I was, sitting in my own kitchen, realizing my own son might be the one loosening the bolts on my chair. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to be wrong so bad I could taste it. Then came the invitation. My grandson, my sweet baby, Elijah, was turning 8. 8 is that age where their front teeth are doing whatever they want, and they still run to you like you're a safe place. Elijah asked me, Grandma, you coming to my birthday dinner? With that little hopeful look kids get, like your presence is a present. Of course I said yes. Marcus insisted on the restaurant. Real fancy, real expensive. One of those spots where they bring your water like it's sacred, and the plates are so big you could use them as steering wheels. He wanted witnesses. He wanted a stage. I knew it the second he said it, because men like my son, when they're about to do something cruel, they dress it up like celebration. They hide the knife behind a cake. That week I didn't cry. I didn't confront. I didn't beg. I made phone calls. Not to my friends. Not to my sisters at church. Not to people who would tell me to pray and keep the family together. I love God, baby, but I'm not about to confuse faith with foolishness. I called a woman named Simone Jackson. Simone is my niece, by love, not blood. I watched her grow up, helped pay for books when she was in school. Now she's a lawyer, the kind who walks into a room and the temperature changes. She doesn't yell. She doesn't perform. She just ends things. When I told her what I'd been seeing, she went quiet for a second, then said, "Auntie, I need you to stop blaming yourself, and I need you to listen carefully." That's how I knew it was real, because Simone doesn't do drama. She does strategy. We met in her office. She didn't pat my hand like I was fragile. She slid a legal pad across the desk and said, "Start from the beginning. Every weird bill, every late notice, every time he touched your accounts." So I did, and with every detail, I watched her eyes narrow, not in surprise, in confirmation, like she'd seen this sickness before. "Lorraine," she said finally, "your son is treating you like an asset." An asset. That word hit different. Not mother, not family, not elder. Asset. Like I was a piece of property with a deed. Like I was a bank with legs. Simone started pulling records, property filings, bank transfers, credit activity, things that sounded like foreign language to most people, but I understood enough to know. My name was doing work I never approved. There were loans, there were accounts, there were signatures that looked like mine, if you squinted, but not if you knew my hand the way I do. There was mail being forwarded. There were emails rerouted. He'd been sweeping my life out from under me with a broom I paid for. And while Simone worked, I sat in my house at night, staring at the same family photos on my mantle, thinking about how a child can grow up in a home full of love and still become a man who thinks love is something you can spend. I kept thinking maybe I failed him. Then I'd think, no, baby, he failed you, because there is a difference between making mistakes and making a plan to harm somebody. The day of the birthday dinner came. I got dressed like a woman who wasn't about to be anybody's victim. Not flashy, not thirsty, just clean and intentional. A deep navy dress that fit my body the way peace fits quiet, firm, undeniable. A little pair of earrings my husband bought me back when we were young and broke and still believed love made people better. I looked in the mirror and I told my reflection, "Don't you shake tonight?" When I arrived, Elijah ran to me first, wrapped his arms around my waist like I was home itself. I kissed his forehead and gave him his gift, some Lego set he'd been begging for, and he bounced back to the table like a little firecracker. Marcus was already seated, and on his left was a woman I'd never seen before. Young, late 20s, maybe, skin glowing, lashes dramatic, nails long like claws. She wore a bright ring that caught the light every time she moved her hand, like she wanted the whole restaurant to notice. She smiled at me like we were in the same club. Marcus stood up to introduce her like he was presenting a new purchase. "Ma," he said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "This is Brielle." He didn't say girlfriend right away. He wanted to stretch the moment. Wanted to make me wait for the punchline? I sat down slowly, looked at her hand. That ring, that expensive, loud, look at me ring. And I knew where that money came from, the way you know rain is coming when your bones start talking. Elijah was chattering, showing me his cake design on his phone, talking about school like the world was still safe. My sweet grandson didn't know he was sitting at the table where his daddy planned to assassinate his grandma's dignity. Marcus ordered like he was rich, steak, lobster, bottles of wine, like he wasn't about to cut the cord that fed him. Halfway through the meal, he started his speech. He tapped his glass, that little ting-ting sound people do when they want attention. Heads turned, waiters paused. Brielle sat up straighter like this was her cue. First, Marcus said, "Happy birthday to my boy, 8 years old, smart, bright, my pride." Elijah smiled so big my heart squeezed. Then Marcus turned toward me, and his face shifted into that fake soft expression like he was about to say something noble. "And Ma," he said, "I just want to say, I appreciate you. You did your thing. You held it down. You gave me a lot." He paused, let that hang, like he was giving me flowers. Then he dropped the casket. "But it's time for me to step into my next chapter. And I'm not gonna lie, Brielle showed me what I've been missing. Real peace, real support, somebody who understands me." And there it was, the public replacement, the performance, the attempt to make me small in front of people who didn't even know my name. Brielle lifted her hand just a little, letting that ring catch the light again like a camera flash. She looked at me with that shiny, hungry kind of confidence, the kind that thinks winning a man makes you a queen. I didn't blink. My grandson's fork froze mid-air. He looked from his daddy to me like he could feel something wrong, but couldn't name it. I saw it in Elijah's face, and something in my chest went cold and clear, because whatever war Marcus wanted, he didn't get to drag that baby into it. Marcus expected tears. He expected me to plead. He expected me to blow up so he could say, "See, she's unstable." He wanted to rewrite the story right there on the tablecloth. But I wasn't there to argue. I was there to end it. I reached down into my purse. Not a big dramatic motion. Just calm, like I was grabbing mints. And I pulled out a plain manila envelope. No label, no writing, nothing fancy. Marcus's smile twitched. Brielle's eyes flicked down to it, then up to me. And for the first time she looked unsure. I slid the envelope across the table and stopped it right in front of my son. "Happy birthday," I said softly, looking at Elijah, not Marcus. "Grandma's gotta go soon, okay baby, but I love you to the moon." Then I looked at Marcus. "My turn," I said. "Open it." His fingers hesitated. That's the thing about people who live off other folks, they're brave, until paperwork shows up. He opened it anyway, trying to act unbothered. His eyes moved across the first page, and all that loud confidence started draining out of him like somebody pulled the plug, because inside that envelope wasn't a letter, it was consequence. It was a court filing. It was a notice of frozen access to anything tied to my accounts. It was a formal revocation of authorization, no more helping Ma with finances. It was a legal demand for records, a report already prepared for investigators. It was documentation of every transfer, every purchase, every little luxury he tried to pretend he earned. And there was one final page in there, the kind that makes a grown man forget how to breathe. A petition regarding my property and my residence, my home, my name, my life. Marcus's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Brielle leaned closer, trying to read, then snapped her head up like she'd touched a hot stove. She wasn't smiling anymore. That ring didn't sparkle so cute now. It looked heavy, like evidence. My grandson whispered "Dad," like he was confused, and Marcus, my son, looked at me the way he should have been looking at me all along. Not like a wallet, like a woman who can cut you off with one steady hand. I stood up, slow, no drama, just final. I leaned down and kissed Elijah's cheek. "Baby, you call me tomorrow," I whispered. "Anytime you want. You hear me? Grandma always got you." Then I straightened and looked at Marcus one last time. "I raised you," I said, quiet as a prayer. "I did not raise you to eat your own mother." I looked at Brielle too, because she was part of this now, whether she liked it or not. "And you," I said gently, "you might think you upgraded, but baby, you just bought a problem with my money." I turned to walk away, and only then did Marcus find his voice. "Ma, wait, come on, Ma," but I didn't stop. Because my whole life I'd been saving hearts. That night, I finally saved my own. And the wild thing is, when I stepped outside into that cool air, with the city lights blinking like 1,000 tiny witnesses, I expected to feel broken. Instead, I felt light, like somebody cut the chain off my ankle, like I'd been holding my breath for years and didn't even know it. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for a minute with my hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead, letting the silence wash the noise off me, and I thought about how betrayal doesn't always come wearing a villain mask. Sometimes it comes in a suit you bought, with a smile you taught, saying "Ma" like it's love, while picking your pockets. That's the part nobody warns you about. The nursing home came later, not because I was helpless, but because stress does ugly things to an older body. My blood pressure climbed like it was chasing something, my sleep got thin, my appetite disappeared. I ended up in a rehab facility for a short while, one of those clean places with beige walls and nurses who talk to you sweet even when you can tell they've seen too much. And lying in that narrow bed at night, hearing somebody down the hall coughing like a broken engine, I made myself a promise. I will not spend my last years being used. I will not die ashamed. I will not fade out while somebody else spends my name. Because I am not a resource. I am a whole woman. I am Lorraine. I am somebody's grandmother. I am somebody who survived marriage, widowhood, grief, racism, long shifts, and a world that expects old black women to be quiet and grateful for scraps. And if my own son thought I was going to go gently into the background while he built a new life on my back, baby, he must not know who raised him. Now, listen, if you're sitting there thinking, that could never be me, I pray you're right. I really do, but if your gut has been whispering, if you've been ignoring little signs because you don't want to believe the worst about the people you love, I need you to hear me like I'm sitting right next to you. Love is not supposed to cost you your safety, family is not supposed to make you feel small, and age does not mean surrender. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is get quiet, get smart, and hand somebody an envelope that changes the whole story. Because the truth is, they can take a lot. They can take your trust. They can take your time. They can even take your peace for a while. But they can't take your power, unless you hand it over and never ask for it back. And me, I asked for mine back. Softly, legally, and all at once. Now the house is still mine. The air in it smells like tea and lemon cleaner and the little herbs I refuse to stop growing. Some nights, I sit on my porch with a blanket over my legs, listening to the quiet like it's music. And when the wind hits just right, I swear, I can hear my husband's old voice in the back of my memory, saying, "That's my girl." Not because I won a battle, but because I finally stopped losing myself. And if you're listening, and you're tired, and you've been carrying everybody, like you're the family mule, baby, put it down. Not tomorrow. Not one day. Put it down before it breaks you. Because a woman can be old, and still be dangerous. In the best way, in the necessary way, in the way that lets her live the rest of her life, like her name still belongs to her, my love. Next part, Suno. That night after I left that restaurant, I didn't go home and crumble like they expected. I drove slow, hands steady on the wheel, like I was carrying something fragile. Not my heart, my dignity. The city lights blurred a little, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. I was in that numb place where your body is calm but your soul is screaming. I pulled into my driveway and just sat there, engine off, silence loud, porch light glowing like it was waiting on me to decide who I was gonna be. Because once you finally see somebody for who they are, you can't unsee it. I walked inside my house on, the air felt different, like it didn't trust me to relax. I set my purse down, took off my shoes, and my knees almost gave out, not from weakness, from shock. From the weight of finally understanding I had been loving a man who was slowly stealing from me with a smile. I went straight to the kitchen, poured myself water. My hands didn't shake. That's what scared me. I looked at the refrigerator, at the magnets, at the little photo of Elijah in his school shirt, missing teeth and proud, and I whispered, "Lord, please don't let this break that baby." Because Marcus could ruin me, but I wasn't gonna let him ruin my grandson's innocence if I could help it. My phone buzzed. One message. "Marcus, Ma, you embarrassed me. Why you doing all this? You really gonna do me like that in public?" Embarrassed him. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I went too far." Not, "Ma, are you okay?" Just, embarrassed him. I stared at that screen for a long time. Then I set the phone face down like it was dirty, like it carried something contagious. Then another buzz. A different name. "Simone, you safe? Doors locked. Don't answer him. Tomorrow morning we move." I exhaled like I'd been holding breath underwater. Because this is what people don't tell you. When you finally stand up to your own child, you don't just need courage. You need a plan. You need protection. You need somebody who won't fold when guilt starts talking sweet. That night I didn't sleep much. I laid in bed listening to every creak in the house like it was a threat. My mind kept replaying Marcus's face when he read those papers. The way his confidence cracked. The way Brielle's smile died. And part of me, this foolish little mother part still, wanted to believe he'd wake up and realize what he'd done. But the other part of me, the part that survived real life, knew better. Because men like Marcus don't wake up remorseful. They wake up angry. They got caught. Morning came gray and heavy. Like the sky was tired too. Simone picked me up around 10. She didn't hug me like I was fragile. She hugged me like I was family. Then she said, "All right, Auntie, we're gonna do this step by step. First stop, the bank." We walked in, and the air smelled like paper and perfume and impatience. People in line, checking their watches, living normal lives. And I remember thinking how strange it is that your world can be collapsing while everybody else is just buying cashier's checks. Simone slid documents across the counter like she was serving a sentence. The bank manager's eyebrows climbed higher with every page. Within an hour, the accounts were locked down tight. New passwords, new security questions, new alerts. Anything that moved under my name now had to answer to me. And when the manager asked, "Do you suspect fraud by a family member?" I hesitated, just a second, because saying it out loud makes it real. Then I said, "Yes." One word, and it felt like closing a casket. After the bank, We went to the courthouse. Baby, I had been in hospitals my whole life, but those courthouse halls, different kind of cold. Fluorescent lights and hard benches and the smell of old stress. People sitting with folders on their laps like their lives were stacked in paper. Simone handled the talking. She filed what needed filing. She made copies like she was building armor. And me, I sat there, hands folded, feeling like I was watching my own life from outside my body. Then my phone buzzed again. Marcus calling. I didn't answer. He called again, then texts started. Ma, pick up. Ma, you trippin'. Ma, I'm coming over. Simone saw my face and snatched my phone right out my hand like I was a teenager about to make a dumb choice. Absolutely not, she said. He doesn't get access to you anymore, but it's my son, I whispered. Simone looked at me, calm but firm. And you're his mother, which means he knows exactly how to pull your strings. Don't let him. That's when I cried for the first time. Not loud, just tears slipping down my face while I stared at a wall full of signs that said no child cell phones. No food, no trauma like pain follows rules. We finished up, and Simone drove me back to her place to rest. Just for a few hours, she said, because we didn't know how Marcus would react. And she was right. Because by late afternoon, my neighbor, Mrs. Darlene, called me, whispering like she was scared the walls had ears. Lorraine, baby, your son is outside your house. My stomach dropped so hard I swear it hit my knees. What do you mean outside? Like, on your porch, pacing, knocking, talking loud. He mad. Simone took the phone from me and spoke so smooth it was scary. Ms. Darlene, thank you. Don't engage. If he tries to force entry, call the police. We're handling it. I sat there shaking, not because I was afraid of Marcus hitting me, but because I was afraid of my own heart breaking again. Because there's something humiliating about seeing your child turn into a stranger on your porch. Simone opened her laptop, typed fast, then looked at me. We're filing for a protective order, she said, today. And I stared at her like she'd said the sky was green. A protective order, against my own son. She didn't flinch. Auntie, he threatened to come over after you cut off his access. That's escalation. I'm not playing with your safety. I wanted to argue, but deep down, I knew. That porch my husband built with his hands. Marcus was stomping on it like it was his stage. And that's when my body gave me a warning I couldn't ignore. My chest tightened. Not pain like a heart attack. More like pressure. Like grief had sat on my ribs. My breathing got shallow. Simone noticed immediately. Lorraine, look at me. Breathe. She checked my pulse like she'd done it 1,000 times. Her face changed. We're going to urgent care, she said. I tried to protest. I'm fine. She leaned close. Auntie, you're not fine. Stress kills. I'm not letting him take your body to. At the clinic, they wrapped that cuff around my arm and the nurse's eyes widened. Ma'am, your blood pressure is extremely high. And all I could think was, of course it is. My life had been under attack, and my body was responding like a house alarm that wouldn't shut off. They gave me medicine, told me to rest, told me to avoid stress like that was a choice. That night, Simone insisted I stay with her. She set up the guest room, brought me tea, and sat on the edge of the bed. Auntie, she said softly, I know this hurts, but you're doing the right thing. I stared at the ceiling and whispered, I used to rock him to sleep. I used to pray over his head when he had fevers. Simone nodded. And he grew up, and he made decisions. And now you're making yours. In the middle of the night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I opened it. A picture. It was the ring. Brielle's ring, close-up flashy, and underneath it, one line. Tell your mama stop playing. My fingers went cold. Simone read it, and her jaw tightened. Okay, she said. Now it's not just financial. It's intimidation. I swallowed hard. What do I do? Simone's voice went quiet. Lethal. You do nothing. You let the law do what it's for. And you stop thinking you're alone. The next morning, Simone drove me back to my house with a sheriff escort arranged. Not because I wanted drama, but because I was done being scared in my own life. When we pulled up, the porch was empty. Marcus was gone, but the air still felt disturbed, like a room after a fight. I walked inside and my knees wobbled. The living room looked normal, but nothing felt normal. A chair slightly moved, a curtain not sitting right. Little things that made me feel like someone had been inside my space, even if they hadn't. I walked straight to my bedroom, opened my closet, and grabbed the shoebox of old photos, the baby pictures, the school portraits, the memories that used to soften me, and I held them for a minute. Then I put them back, because love can live in a box, but it can't run your life. That day, We filed the protective order. We submitted the evidence. We requested restrictions. We locked down everything. And by evening, I got a call. Elijah wants to talk to you, my daughter-in-law said quietly. She sounded tired, caught in the middle. My heart clenched. Put him on, I said. And when my grandson's voice came through small, confused, he said, Grandma, why Daddy mad at you? I closed my eyes. Because how do you explain adult evil to a child who still believes his father is a superhero? So I said the simplest truth I could. Baby, sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, and Grandma's just making sure she stays safe. He was quiet, then he whispered, I love you. And that was the moment I knew. I could survive losing Marcus, but I could not lose Elijah. So I promised him, I love you too. Always, no matter what. After I hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at the wall for a long time. I felt grief, but underneath it, something else was forming. Not revenge, not hatred, clarity. Because the truth is, when people stop being able to use you, they start calling you cold. When you stop paying, they start calling you mean. When you protect yourself, they start calling you selfish. But baby, boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you free. And that's what I was becoming. Free. Tell me next part, and I'll continue from where the court begins, pulling records, and we discover exactly what Marcus did, how deep the fraud went, and the moment my grandson finally sees his daddy for who he really is.